Hi everyone, welcome to the July online chapter meeting of the Building Designers Association of Australia. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jennifer Binns and I'm a building designer based in Tasmania. I'm the host of the online chapter meetings and I have Sarah Jane with me behind the scenes. We've got a great turnout again for the online chapter, so that's great to see. Post us a message in the chat box and let us know where you're logging in from. So welcome everyone. We've got lots of events coming up this month, both formal and informal, paid and free. We'll post the links in the chat box for the event so you can review whether they're of interest to you and then you can register if they are. So I'll just give you a snapshot of some of the events that are coming up. First up is a webinar on understanding thermal performance and identifying wind design pressure and testing methods. And then we have one on First Rate 5 software and Sustainability Victoria's recently developed whole of home energy tool. First Rate 5 has a range of powerful features that allow for the efficient modelling of dwellings and the generation of NAFTA certificates. So if they're of interest to you, have a look in the chat box and Sarah Jane will post the link. At the end of the month is Crossing the Threshold to Accessible Housing, which is now running for its 5th session due to popular demand. If you haven't been able to attend previously because it was during the day, just note that it's now an evening event. The next session is starting on the 20th of July and it runs for 5 sessions over 2 weeks. The event is worth 7 formal CPD points and it is a paid event. As BDAA members, besides the education, advocacy, networking and national awards, you also receive discounted rates to paid events. So if you're not a member of the BDAA and you're planning on attending CPD events, after 2 or 3 events, the savings will have paid for your membership. So another link Sarah Jane's going to post in the chat box if you'd like to find out more about becoming a member of BDAA. Also, for everyone located in New South Wales, we want to bring to your attention the changes that took place on the 1st of July in relation to the New South Wales Design and Building Practitioners Act and regulations. Sarah Jane will post a link to the chat box so that everyone has access to all of this information in one place on the BDAA website. Before we start our presentations, a quick run through of the Zoom tools. You're welcome to ask questions throughout the meeting using the Q&A box, and our presenters will answer your questions either throughout the presentation or at the end. The Q&A feature also allows you to upvote topics. If you'd like to ask a question via audio, there's a raise your hand tool, and we just ask that you check there's no background noise that will interfere with the audio when we unmute you to ask your question. The chat box is there as a continuous message thread for comments, and Sarah Jane will use the chat box to post links. So comments in the chat box, questions in the Q&A box. So first up today, we have Alison Scotland, who is the Interim Executive Director of the Australian Sustainable Built Environment Council. Alison will discuss ASBEC's purpose and policy priorities, along with a snapshot of current activities and how we can make the most of the BDAA and ASBEC relationship. Hi, Alison, have we got you online? I can see you, but I can't hear you.
Yes, Jennifer.
Welcome.
Thank you.
I'm going to hand over to you now.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And lovely to see you and lovely to speak with you all. I know we've got a great turnout today. So let's see if technology works. And I am going to attempt to share my screen. So if you cannot see, just let me know. Let's see. Hopefully that is good. Now, I thought I would start my presentation today by asking you all whether you know about ASBEC. Are you familiar with ASBEC? Do you know who ASBEC is or what ASBEC stands for? So we've got a poll, I believe, up on the screen with a simple yes/no answer on are you familiar with ASBEC? And so I think it's going to be up for maybe 30 seconds or so, and we'd love to hear from you. And I believe, okay, so that's a good thing. So only 19% of you are familiar with ASBEC. So ASBEC stands for the Australian Sustainable Built Environment Council, and I think it's about 6 weeks fresh into the role, so it'd be lovely to share with you who ASBEC is and a little bit about what we do. So we're sort of starting from generally a place of not knowing who ASBEC is. So what I will do is tell you a bit more about who we are and what we do. So luckily, the BDAA is one of our many valued members. So we have an amazing collection of members, peak bodies across the built environment, and we are all focused on sustainable, productive and resilient buildings, communities and cities. So our members consist of industry and professional associations. We also have non-government organisations and research bodies, and we also have government observers. Everyone that's involved in the planning, design, delivery and operation of our built environment. So we truly represent, ASBEC is almost like a peak body of peak bodies, and it's a wonderful collaborative forum, and what ASBEC produces is truly a reflection of the building sector in Australia. We also have a range of observer members. So in terms of, voting members, the voice of industry, there a lot of the logos are on your screen now, but we also have a lot of observer members, and generally have nearly all of the state and territory governments, as well as the federal government. We also have a range of local bodies, as well as research bodies. So it's an amazing collection and forum of members really interested in a sustainable built environment for Australia. And so what do we do? What's our purpose? So our mission is to provide that peak collaborative forum for organisations that are championing that sustainable future for the built environment. And we do it through policy engagement and advocacy. So in terms of policy, we want to create industry-led policies for a net zero built environment, in alignment with with the UN Sustainable Development Goals and the aims of the Paris Agreement. We also have, a range of diverse groups involved in the built environment, gathering together and finding common ground, and intelligently discussing contentious issues that might be affecting them and their industry, as well as advocating for their own sustainability products, policies and initiatives. We also, as a body, ASBEC, we can respond to relevant advocacy issues by leveraging that collective voice that I was mentioning before. So we are very active in developing and pursuing practical responses to achieve sustainability across all elements of the built environment. But where do our policy priorities come from? So they actually come from our members. Last year, so you'll see up on the screen, ASBEC consulted quite broadly with its membership and to create its strategic plan for 2021. And I will be going a little bit further into this strategic plan for you today, so you know what we're doing. The reason it's just a 2021 plan for now, it's because the built environment and the policy environment is changing so rapidly. We've had bushfires and extreme weather events occurring. We've also had COVID. So we are ensuring that our strategy is constantly evolving and adapting to this changing environment. So you'll see us looking at our strategy into next year to see what it is we need to do. That said, our strategy informs what we do in terms of the work of our task groups, and they are aligned, each of our task groups are aligned to our policy priorities. So our task groups are focused on, we've got in the green corner or the green section, we've got supporting a transition towards net zero buildings. In the blue, we've got growing the market for sustainable housing across all typologies and sectors. In terms of the red section, we've got improving and enforcing energy efficiency requirements in the building code. And in terms of the orange section, we have integrated, sustainable and climate resilient economic and social infrastructure. So we've got a huge focus in terms of our strategy, and all of those go into our vision, which is sustainable, productive, resilient buildings, communities and cities. So I will go into a little bit about each of our task groups for you, so you can get a flavour of what it is that we're focusing on this year and into next. In terms of net zero buildings, this group aims to support a future state of energy efficient buildings running on renewable energy. So we have achieved so much so far. I'm not going to read out what is on the screen. Happy to share my presentation with you all a little bit later. But what we're focusing on at the moment is advocacy, so focused on the role of buildings in Australia's long-term plan towards net zero. We are conducting some analysis in relation to the decarbonising of building operations. So if you're interested in finding more about that project, happy to share that with you after the event. We are also focused on collaborating with governments to shape appropriate governance and nationally harmonised rollout of home energy ratings. And we also encourage stimulus strategies where the opportunities might exist. So there's a lot happening in terms of the net zero working group, and a lot of it is focused on the building code, of course, which relates to new buildings. So in terms of what's coming up immediately, make sure that you stay tuned for the NCC Public Comment Draft 2, which should be for energy efficiency and condensation management. That should be out for public comment around about sort of mid to late August. So keep your eyes out for that. I think it's important for the BDAA to know that. In terms of sustainable housing, so this group's continued priority is to support growth in the market for sustainable homes. This is across all typologies and sectors. So in terms of the focus of the work this year and into next, we are supporting the successful delivery of 2021 measures for residential buildings in the trajectory for low energy buildings. So this does relate to the work of the National Construction Code. But the focus of this group is industry-backed, nationally harmonised residential ratings and a disclosure framework. So this might be a bit too much to read on the screen, but there's a lot that this group is doing. So this includes mapping the legislative pathway informed by the trajectory work that they've done so far. It's identifying decision makers who will deliver the regulation and legislation, including, governments, ministers, departments, agencies. We are also looking to identify how disclosure or residential disclosure of home energy ratings helps to deliver the policy goals tailored to each jurisdiction. And we're also making the case for this national harmonisation of energy ratings, because I know you're probably all, not really happy if you are having to change what you do depending on which state you work in. In terms of building quality, we have a very proud history at ASBEC of advocating for sensible evidence-based energy efficiency standards, along with a forward trajectory for future standards in the building space. And in terms of the National Construction Code, as mentioned before, it's very important. So the effectiveness of the National Construction Code will continually play an important role as we get to 2050. And we have a range of different policy platforms that ASBEC has collaborated on and published. One of them is Built to Perform, and Built to Perform highlights that, compliance is a big part of that. So we can have all the targets that we want to achieve net zero buildings or get towards net zero, but unless compliance is there, unless we are checking what people are doing, it's really hard to be achieving those very lofty goals. So in terms of what the Building Code Group is doing this year and beyond, we are looking towards the successful delivery of NCC 2022 residential energy efficiency provisions, noting the success that we've had helping NCC 2019 and the energy efficiency requirements for commercial buildings. We're also looking to pave the way towards resilience in the building code and what that involves. And we are continually supporting a nationally harmonised approach to compliance and enforcement. And that includes supporting the recommendations of the Shergold Weir report, the Building Confidence report. So that's just a snapshot of what that group is doing. And on to the last, urban resilience. So again, ASBEC has had a long-standing focus on cities, infrastructure and urban scale policy to support sustainable, livable and a resilient built environment. So in terms of this task group, the scope is quite broad. It aims to deliver policy supporting the integrated, sustainable and climate resilient economic and social infrastructure. And in terms of a snapshot of what this group has been doing, this originally evolved from all the cities work that we were doing. But this group is essentially calling for a shared long-term vision for stronger, thriving cities, supported by targeted policy measures in the context of sustainability and climate change adaptation. So, we are looking to invest in an improved policy and governance relating to a national settlement strategy. We want continuous improvement of city deals and better procurement in general. We're also looking to deliver more balanced business cases to realise better value from our infrastructure, and that relates to the Bang for Buck publication you can see up on your screen. We also want to adopt key recommendations of the Australian government's Building Up and Moving Out piece, and we're also looking to take forward the work this year of the work of reshaping infrastructure. That's the third little icon that you can see on the screen, and that's focused on a net zero pathway for infrastructure. That's only a snapshot again of what this group is doing. Feel free to reach out to us if you want to know more about what's going on. And so in terms of, how does the BDAA help ASBEC advance its efforts in all of these key policy areas? Well, it's your voice, your input. So we'd love to have you collaborate with us on areas of policy that are important for you. And that involves engaging with us. So, and other ASBEC members. So we have some absolutely wonderful BDAA representatives come along to our council meetings, participate in our task groups, and we really rely on your expertise to help inform our policy decisions. This also involves, as a representative body, the BDAA is involved in advocacy. So everything to do with our policy, we want you advocating out there in the sector when you're speaking with various stakeholders through government, throughout the industry. We want your support. And not only that, the good thing is that you can use the ASBEC network to join together in your advocacy initiatives. All of that helps us move the industry forward little bit by little bit. It also helps us inform our policy for the future. So I might just leave it there, and I'll see if we have any questions up on the chat. But I'd love to hear from you about how you'd like to support the ASBEC network, or if you have any other questions about what it is that we do for the sector.
Thanks, And that's really interesting, and it's great to know a bit more about what you're doing and the connections and how we can get involved. I think there's just a question about how individuals can get involved with the group.
Yes.
BDAA.
Yeah, sure, Jennifer. So the BDAA is a formal contributing member to ASBEC and all of our policies. So individually, if you're interested in participating, we strongly recommend you reach out to your BDAA network, and they might be able to assist you to participate in various activities. So we have a lot of wonderful BDAA members on our task groups already. So they're the 4 task groups that I had a little bit of an explanation of earlier. So if you're interested in any of the work of those task groups, please reach out to your BDAA representatives in your various states and territories, and they can let you know about how you can become involved and how you can contribute.
Now, Sarah Jane's just posted a link there. So if you are interested in becoming involved in learning more about ASBEC, if you click on Sarah Jane's link, then we'll be able to just register a list of people that are interested.
Fantastic.
Alison, I don't think we've got any other questions unless it's anything that's come up. No. Thank you very much. That was a really interesting presentation.
Thanks again, Jennifer. I might stop that and I will become an observer again. So thanks for having me.
Bye for now.
Thanks.
So up next we have Darren O'Day from Speckle. Darren's joining us to discuss the growing ambitions of Speckle, which is a platform that provides free and paid services for National Construction Code specification and compliance applications for both residential and commercial buildings. Darren's going to provide us with a bird's eye view of where Speckle is, where it's going. Have we got you online, Darren?
Let me unmute myself.
I can hear you, and I can.
A little wave.
Welcome.
From the sun in Queensland.
Good. We have sun here in Tasmania too. I'm going to hand over to you now.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much. Okay, great. Okay, guys. Yeah, look, my name's Darren. The internet speed isn't awesome here, so I'm just going to turn off my video, and we'll proceed like that. So yeah, look, great opportunity for me today. I'm going to try and stick to about 20 minutes of talking about a bit about Speckle and where we've got to. So I'm sure many of you are not going to be too familiar with Speckle, but Speckle is a project that I've been working on for the last couple of years. There you go, a pop-up, just as I say that. So I'm going to click yes, because I'm absolutely committed to being familiar with Speckle. Looks like I can't quite do that yet. I think I'm waiting for an answer, am I? Oh, Q&A, okay. So just while we collate some answers there, Speckle as a project has been going for a good couple of years now. See, that's awesome. 208 people don't know anything about me, so I'm in the same role as ASBEC. Fresh information is always a good thing. So thanks for that. So Speckle is a platform that has been created to assist the National Construction Code in, I guess, being successfully delivered in many ways. In 2019, the National Construction Code saw a big shake up in terms of its stringency increases. And with a consultant's hat on at the time, I was working with the ABCB to try and work toward some, more effective ways to meet the requirements of the code. And Speckle is a project that came out of that because I saw an opportunity to develop up a platform that would be a bit more intuitive, a bit more supplier focused and specification focused. So in a nutshell, I ended up creating a bunch of applications. These applications are really quick and easy to use. They're for designers, whether you are an engineer or an architect, and they essentially allow you to look at the National Construction Code in order to assess whether you meet energy efficiency requirements. Now, the project isn't just me, and like most, I have a website. So if you wanted the website, it's www.speckle.io. So I'll just leave that there for a second. But I think I threw it into the chat window there as well. But you can jump on there and find out a bit more information. But the project is a bunch of us now. We actually work out of Melbourne. I'm here at my brother's place in Queensland at the moment. And that's me up in the top right-hand corner, a younger version of me, I should say. And then David Carroll to the left of me is a co-director there, and the rest of the guys they're in a development space or a business development marketing space, such as Kelvin down there in the bottom right-hand corner. But effectively, we're really interested in types of things that ASBEC are really interested in, driving better outcomes in the built environment, from design through to construction. We're very interested in the accurate specification of building designs as per these July 1st changes that have now come through, particularly in relation to performance-based design briefs and performance solutions in the National Construction Code. We see ourselves as being in a position to enable information to be provided and to remove barriers of knowledge, so that people can use these web applications that we've developed. I'll give some demonstration of those to drive better outcomes and raise awareness of better building products and techniques. So very quickly, in terms of where Speckle sits, in a magical world, Speckle is a platform, and it has these sort of two user groups: suppliers and users. A user may be a designer, maybe one of you guys on the call today will be a user in 6 months' time. I don't know. We've got about 900 users now. So we've just launching some new bits and bobs, and we had about I think 50 users come on in the last 2 weeks. So it's starting to really grow. On the supply side, a bunch of suppliers on there at the moment, more coming on. The suppliers are really important because they allow us to have real products behind the platform. So when you're on Speckle, you know that you're actually dealing with this supplier data that's been reviewed by me and by my team and verified against National Construction Code requirements. And then you don't have to worry about the idiosyncrasies of collecting data in any way or form. This is all done for you. At the moment, there's about 1,800 plus products on Speckle, and lots of templates on there as well. We'll have a little look at what a template is specifically. But effectively, it's simply a platform that enables these two user groups to sort of come together. And when they do come together, they can do things like design glazing systems, wall systems, roof systems, floor systems, and undertake building assessments against the National Construction Code. All of these, from a Speckle point of view, are a performance solution, and I've got a slide to sort of cover that definition in a wee bit. But as we go through these, I've got to dive down into a little bit of detail because some folk are definitely going to have questions about this. In terms of glazing systems, what does the glazing application systems application do? Well, it undertakes total system U values and solar emittance values for National Construction Code. It also does the applicable values for volume 2. So for residential buildings, if you wanted to do a whole system glazing calculation, you wanted an option to use a process other than WERS to use the actual size of the system. So it provides a more advanced approach. In terms of wall systems, for anyone that's been sort of looking at that thermal bridging space, you can jump on here, do thermal bridging calcs directly and quickly against the National Construction Code. By the way, a lot of this for your first projects is all free. Like we, as I said, we're about education, we're about knowledge sharing. So you can jump on here, you don't have to pay a penny. You can also do condensation calculations against wall systems. You can also do that for roof systems and floor systems. From a National Construction Code, wall, roof and floor systems are really, really quite similar in terms of the standards that you need to adopt in order to run the calculations. Where we see an opportunity to improve those, we absolutely do, such as running condensation calcs on the fly. So all the wall, roof and floor, or wall, roof calcs run condensation assessments on the fly. And then a more recent introduction to the Speckle platform is our building assessment. So we now do full building simulations and for energy, greenhouse gas emissions, and thermal comfort. And this is really improved the, I guess, the attraction to the platform. This has all been run in Energy Plus, which is a simulation engine out of the US that's been around for about 30 years, so verified against the National Construction Code requirements. So we've been doing some really interesting stuff, and just to give you a feel for the timeline in which someone may be using Speckle. People use it to navigate, to ask questions of the National Construction Code, and then they jump in and use one of our apps. So whether it's a glazing system to a floor system, they're designing in that space. And up until now, what they've been doing is they've been using that information within the glazing, wall, roof, and floor systems to put into a whole building assessment. Now, just because we've developed our building assessment, and we're actually just about to release the full simulation app on the market tomorrow, we are going to, we're finding that people are starting to actually use that before they do the glazing, wall and roof and floor systems, because it makes more sense to specify those against the building assessments. So it's a space that's growing. And if you jump onto the platform, tomorrow morning, you'll be able to freely get access to full building simulations against the National Construction Code. So this is a first for the industry, and we really want to encourage better adoption of a fast, adoption of a faster approach, which we think is much better. But whatever you're doing, you're producing reports. So reports are always the outcome from Speckle, and those reports are performance solutions against the National Construction Code. And they might be used by a builder or an architect, certifier, or engineer, or designer in order to primarily meet specification requirements. And this is the big bit. This is the bit that we grab all that data from the suppliers, we do the calculations, we create a really quick platform to do it, and I don't have that much time. I've got about 10 minutes left. So I decided today that I was just going to focus on two applications, the wall systems and the building assessment, because this will give you the best flavor of where we've got to in this project. And before I do, I'm just going to jump into just something that's critical, something that we get asked all the time. Okay, Darren, in terms of National Construction Code, where do you guys actually sit? Are you a deemed to satisfy provision, or are you a performance solution? Because you're going to be pretty much one of the two. So we pretty much sit like this. Everything we do is a performance solution against the National Construction Code. For some that are doing sort of the deemed to satisfy stuff with J1.3, J1.5, and J1.6. So that's for your floors, your walls, and your roofs, respectively. Effectively, once you jump on here, because you're doing in a more advanced version of a deemed to satisfy, you're doing a performance solution, and then you produce a report against the performance requirements against the National Construction Code. In this recent version of the building assessment that we're just putting out on the market tomorrow, so this is great timing for you guys, we do JV3 assessments, and that's for thermal, and that's for occupant comfort. So all of them, really, these applications go through that pathway in order to meet the requirements of the National Construction Code. Now, in terms of wall systems. So wall systems, I've just thrown in a couple of quick little videos here, and I'm just going to start that one off and see if I can pause it for a second. So I've just paused that for a second. So what you can see now is a bunch of suppliers. Now, this first video is really just to show you the relationships suppliers have with Speckle. So I've just recorded this just to make it easier, but there's a bunch of different types of products on there, and you can jump onto anyone. I've just used AWS as an example here. And AWS has provided us with all the information for their systems. So if you wanted to pick one, we've got all the data related to this particular system, which is completely random, 730 designer system. Now, just as a second example, Knauf. Loads of Knauf products there. If you wanted to specify a Knauf product, there is information, there is the data, there is everything you need from a thermal performance point of view to meet the National Construction Code requirements. So I think there's one third example, Kingspan, was it? There you go. So a bunch of Kingspan products. Those installation products, again, are all available. So I think you get the gist. It's a very quick and easy way to get access to information. And those suppliers, again, they've been fairly critical in making specular reality. Now, when it comes to the templates, this is what a template is. So if you jump on and you grab a supplier again, see those there? I'm just going to stop that for a second. These here are templates. So these templates are wall build-ups, a bit like the CSR Redbook, for example, that are really predetermined by us with the supplier, where you can simply click and specify those systems against the National Construction Code. So over here, you can see it has a title, it has a description, and it has a performance value. And you can go ahead and just, oh, excuse me, I'm just going to go back to that. Sorry about that, guys. You can go, oh, my video is not working. There we go. Let's play that again. So you go ahead and just click, select your template. There's lots of them on there, I think 200 odd. And there you go. You can see that you can get a number very quickly. So I'm just going to go and pause this on next time we select it. I'm going to pause it there. And what you can see here is that you have a wall buildup. So a concrete wall with an air gap, a bit of framing. Of course, you can look at the thermal bridging stuff here. And then you've got a Kingspan Cooltherm K18 product on the inside. And then it nominates its total R value. So you can go in here and just change any of these, change the thickness of your concrete wall, change your K18 to a different thickness, for example, and you'll get a resultant change in the performance of the system. And you can go ahead and look at condensation and temperature factors and those types of things too. Alas, I don't have that much time, so I'm going to go on to another example of what we've been doing, and this is the JV3 modeling space. So JV3 modeling, for those that are not across it, is really a process whereby which you can model some designs against the National Construction Code in order to make sure that your design with your proposed building fabric is better than the DTS provisions. That's effectively it. So I'll say that one more time. So you model a couple of designs. You're really focused on the building fabric being better than the deemed to satisfy provisions of the National Construction Code. So if I was to articulate this in a slightly different way, what we're doing in the JV3 space is we're using a performance solution in order to look at glazing systems, roof systems, wall systems, and floor systems to effectively trade off to meet the National Construction Code requirements. And this has been a very, very popular approach over the last 10 years. This is it's an interesting approach. I've written about this for a long time now. It's a good introduction to energy modeling. It's not a deemed satisfied spreadsheet. If you're in a consultancy space, there's a lot more time, a lot more money associated to this modeling methodology. And there is the potential to improve design outcomes. However, there has been an utter failing, really, of the National Construction Code. Well, not the National Construction Code, the JV3 modeling process within the National Construction Code and the way it's being used on the market. Its complexity is a challenge. The software is expensive. The deliverables associated to JV3 modeling are often very, very time sensitive. It's subject to loads of error. It's very easy to game, and it doesn't effectively improve energy efficiency. So we've been really hesitant in terms of our approach to this, but because the National Construction Code has now improved into 2019 for Volume 1, we've decided that we'd go ahead and develop this out because we see it as a conduit to better buildings. So I'm sure there's much more, there's other benefits there, there's other negative points, but in terms of our process, this is what the app looks like from a schematic point of view. You create drawings, you draw zones that represent, thermal zones in a building, you add them to levels, so you can have as many levels as you like, you specify your building envelope, you add a profile to represent the building, and select some HVAC, and that's effectively it. So here is, you go through a process, you add information, you map it out, you say, okay, this is where my project is, this is where it sits in terms of the building code, this is the building class and the climate zone. And you go ahead and specify that. Really quick and easy stuff. You then go ahead and you can start adding drawings. So quick little video here just to illustrate that. Go ahead and select an underlay. That's just a PNG file. And you can go ahead and just then adopt the story height there. And once you bring that in, you can start to use that underlay in your drawing. This is a bit sort of first rate 5 like in terms of its sort of presentation here. It was sort of a acknowledgement after the fact, because I'm not a first rate 5 user, but you can go ahead and calibrate your drawings. And this is just going through a quick little process. So I know the width of that window there, so I can go ahead and specify that. I think it was 1200 or something like that. There you go. Yeah. So that's going to help you calibrate that model. And then we can go ahead and then set the origin of this modeling space in order for this modeling space to understand where the levels are within the building. This video is slightly old now, but I think you get the idea. You go ahead and start really designing up your building. And as you go through the process, you can then start drawing zones. So these are just thermal zones. And as you go through that, you really start to build out a representation of the building and undertake some administration along the way. You know, give those zones some spaces. It's a very, very simple approach, but it's highly effective. And what we do, we collect all this information and we throw this off to Energy Plus in the cloud. So all the modeling is done probably 10 times faster than what you'll do even on a really high performance computer. So it's a very, very speedy approach to how we design buildings. And this little example is just showing that you can sort of nominate different types of zones and that type of thing. So I'm just going to push that along to the next example where you can start to see where I've filled out all these zones. So and once you've done that, you can add all of this information to levels. Now, in this example, I believe I threw in 3 levels. That's right, yeah. And we've only brought in 1 drawing. So what we're going to do is just going to give those levels a quick naming. And this is probably about halfway through this example. I realize I'm about 20 minutes now. And I'll probably be a bit more time sensitive with the rest of these examples, but you go ahead and you get the gist.
And you've got plenty of time. We've still got 20 minutes up our sleeves. So there's a few coming in, but don't use up all the 20 minutes, but save some time.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Another 5 or 10 would be
lovely. No,
awesome.
Good.
Thank you very much. Okay, so cool. So there you go. So the levels are in at this point. So you start to stack levels in, stack drawings. And then you can look at the building fabric, right? So the building fabric is obviously fundamental to the performance of the building. And here we provided a very quick, easy way to literally click one button. So you assign all your building fabric to the National Construction Code. And that's it. You can go for, there's advanced options there, of course, if you want to really look into this stuff, but you don't need to. You can go ahead and just save that and do the same for your roof and your floor systems. Just assign the fabrics related to the National Construction Code and the climate zone and building type you're within, because obviously we've automated all of that for you. So it's a very, very quick and easy process to do, even if you're unfamiliar with this general sort of process of modeling. And at that point, if you were to accept all the other defaults there, then you could go ahead and just run the calcs. But you might want to look at a bit more detail at the zone level. So in this example, I'm just going to stop that for a second because I'm aware of this might be going a bit fast. So the transition over from selecting the building envelope for your whole building and then going into the zone level to actually nominate a different, for example, wall type at the zone level. This is what this area is aiming to look at now. And what you can do is you can go in here, and I believe I just select that external wall, and then you can go ahead and just add your glazing on here. And all you do is select your system U value and solar heat gain coefficient. I'm sure a lot of you guys are across these values, these performance values for glazing, and then just nominate where that goes to. So I think that we've got a couple of nominations in here. You can do just a single module. So place that anywhere within that aspect there. That's along that wall there, or just do a repeating module, a bit like a curtain wall or a glass that's going to be sort of repeated across the design. And you can go ahead and just save that. And again, you can go and distribute that across the whole design if you want. So in this example, I've just gone ahead and I believe I've gone ahead and just start to select as many external walls as I could find. This is just going through all the individual zones and selecting external walls. And then I'm going to put that glazing across that, all these external walls, in order for it to be distributed. So if you had a plan like the one we were just looking at, and you just wanted to put 55% window to wall ratio across the whole thing, you can do so as quickly as that. So I'm just going to update those 19 aspects, and then that gets saved and gets pushed through to all the glazing on the project. So pretty much the perimeter that you can see there now has 55% glazing across the whole thing, with a system U value of 3.2 and a solar heat gain coefficient of 0.3. So it's as quick and easy as that. Next up, we're just looking at profiles. So the profiles are adopted here in this space here, and you can just go ahead and select and create profiles if you like. So these are of course all for volume 1. So you go ahead, select a profile, select whichever one you want, and go from there. You can go ahead and rename your profiles as you like. This is probably a bit of a deep dive for this presentation here. But once you've done so, you can go through and start looking at the amount of people in the space. You can either accept the defaults or go ahead and tweak those. You can look at the activity of the people in the space. These are thermal comfort considerations here. And then look at lighting. And you can look at equipment. Don't worry about those fractions there. They're not there anymore. This was in a test mode. And look at infiltration, so the leakage of the building in terms of air. And look at set points. And you can go through and set these for all zones within the building. And finally, HVAC. So for those that are across HVAC, you can go ahead and start putting in a couple of different systems there. We're building those out over this next month. But once you do, you can go ahead and set the parameters for HVAC accordingly, including ventilation supply for the space. And then effectively go through and run some results. So I'm not going to go into the results now. Realize I didn't have the time to do that. But your results are effectively comparing the reference building against the proposed building in a JV3 process. And it's worth saying to this cohort of people that we do this for verb modeling too. So we do this for both volume 1 and volume 2. We focused on volume 1 for the time being because we see 2019 and the National Construction Code as a conduit for better buildings. 2016 is not necessarily that in any way or form because it allows you to get away with murder in terms of the performance of your building fabric. But we are developing out versions of 2016 that you can also use now, but it's probably worth saying that the fabric is going to be probably less flexible in terms of the reference building in the 2016 version of our applications, because we don't condone NCC 2016 as a pathway to better buildings. But there's lots of results, don't have time for those. If you're wondering what that building looked like, that's what the building looked like. You can, of course, export the results. You can export the DWG file or the DXF file and the IDF file from Energy Plus. You'll be able to export the actual Excel file and an automated report against National Construction Code requirements very, very soon. We've tested. We're continuing to test. So that's obviously it's critical for us, and it's critical for you guys to know that we are testing against the requirements of the National Construction Code. And just as a point of interest, where we've been testing both in the calculation space, but also against industry practice. So we've worked with about 12 consultancies at this point. And we've been looking at the efficiency that Speckle now represents in terms of the building assessment stuff. And if you see down the horizontal, the axis, we've got the number of thermal zones. And as you run up the left, it's the time in minutes. And what we're finding is that, for about 20 thermal zones in your project takes about 15 minutes to model it in Speckle. 45, about 30 minutes. 80 thermal zones, which is a big building, less than 50 minutes. So the full building simulation modeling in Speckle from start to finish is less than an hour for about 80% of projects. it's extremely fast and is a bit of a game changer in terms of what it represents for the market. I got to say something about pricing. Most of what you've seen, actually everything you've seen today, is actually freely available to jump on if you want to play around with the project. But if you start using this, professionally in your professional, career, and start or commercially, I should say, we would love to get the support. We're not asking for much. Your whole team can jump onto Speckle for $199 a month and do unlimited, really everything. We're not creating any barriers to this. All we're focusing on is a price point in which we can get as many people across the line. And we're also starting to provide training as of next month. But before we do that, we've got a few things that we've identified that need to be tweaked and improved, and those are being undertaken now over this month. So we're just about to start this process. We've actually started ticking off quite a few of these boxes already. It's a good point to be having a chat with you guys, because this all comes out. You'll gain access to this tomorrow, for BDAA members, when it comes to the training side of things, you guys are going to get reductions because we want to support the fact that if people are going to jump on here, they've already got some good training, some good knowledge in the space. They may want to just go through another process. We get to cover our costs a little bit. You get to go make sure that you know what you're doing if you're going to start using this. And as we get into August, the 2019 volume 2, so that's the resi stuff, and the 2016 volume 1 will all kick in. So by September, it will be really well rounded in terms of running building simulations for 2016 commercial and or 2019 commercial and residential, and 2016 commercial. At this point, that's what we've got time to do. There you go. There is the email address, the website again. Thank you very much for those extra minutes. I really did need them. I'm going to open up now. I'm sure there's a few questions. I think I'll just leave it there.
Thank you very much, Darren. There are quite a few comments that have come through, so I am going to read through them if you like, and you can answer them. Adrian has said, any chance of getting Speckle registered under the NAFA's CSIRO 10th engine system to produce NAFAs and basic certificates? Great database, very interactive with real-time products, diagrams, etc.
Cool. Thanks for that, Adrian. Yeah, look, not really. I mean, so the engine that we've used at the moment is Energy Plus. So it's renowned as being the most robust thermal modeling engine in the world. It is to convert over and use Cheneth is just too much of a labor. And I think if we're looking at the NAVA's approach, you've got Hero out there, which I'm going to plug. Hero is a great tool that's recently been released. I think Hero is doing a great job of adding some value in that market space. So at this point, no, we wouldn't be looking at that. We just don't have the resources to do it. We're a small team that are already punching way above our weight. So thanks for the prompt. And yeah, maybe if I can get Hero to integrate with Speckle, that'd be the way to do it.
Esther has said, still waiting for class 1, and there are a few comments about whether Speckle can be used with other building classes.
So in terms of class 1, so the class 1, yeah, look, where the class 1 is all handled our end. The biggest really complexity on the class 1 is the glazing side of things. So there is a glazing process that you've got to determine the performance of the reference glazing at a story by story level. That adds lots of complexity into the process. So it's a project that's ongoing, and we've got testing versions available. It's going to probably take another probably six to 8 weeks of just testing it. But once it's there, it's there. So that would take us through to all the building classes that are conditioned effectively. So, let's say by August, it'll be ready. Good. These things take time.
Lockie has said, tool looks good, but the challenge for us as specifying designers is who does this? Are we paying Speckle as a consultant to use this system, or do we have to learn it?
Yeah, look, Speckle is
ourselves?
absolutely not a consultancy. Like, the thing I get asked all the time is, "Oh, Darren, can you do that for me?" Like, no, I can't, because I've created a platform for other people. There's a conflict of interest if I start using Speckle as a platform for me to deliver consultancy. I would have probably the most lucrative platform in the country to do it, but that's not what it's for. It's there to provide knowledge and to gain traction, and for users to pick up on it. The training is very little. I mean, I'm finding new users, they spend a few hours on there and they're done. Our training workshops are just focused on 1.5-hour workshops at the moment. So really, you get your team together, you get your focus, and then we will run the training workshop, and by the end of that you'll be able to model wall systems, or roof system, glazing system, the whole building. So your training is 1.5 to 3 hours, maybe, that type of ilk. That's what we're looking at. So it's not huge, and we're trying to value the training that a lot of folk have already undertaken as well. So there is I get a feel for how much people know and how much training that they need. So I run through that stuff with them, as does the other person that works on the training side of things with me.
Lizette has asked, Speckle is for energy efficiency only. Any intention to expand into the other sections of the NCC? It's based on energy efficiency. There are other components of Speckle. You can do life cycle assessments on there. You can do condensation assessments on there. So that's in health and amenity. If you start specifying something that we've got to be cautious about in terms of combustibility, you're going to be made aware of that. We're working on a project where acoustic calculations are done on the fly. So yes, there are many other areas that are not energy efficiency focused. They all come under the banner of building envelope design. And what I'd like to do with the project is almost completely automate building envelope design. So these silos of, fire and energy efficiency and moisture and acoustics are not separate silos. They're actually integrated together. So users don't necessarily have to make a massive amount of decisions on this stuff. They can just pick systems and it will automate the specification most suitable for them. So yes, the answer is lots of stuff there. Just all working through at the moment. So before I go back to questions, Sarah Jane is actually compiling a list. So if you want to register your interest in Speckle, and possibly we can use this for future training, there's a link that Sarah Jane has just posted in the chat box. Now, Lockie has asked, obvious question, how can we plug Speckle in and play with our BIM models?
BIM models, at this point in time, given how quick Speckle is, we don't see a integration into BIM yet, because it costs too much time, too much money to do it. So we see the process of exporting plans, building things up fairly quickly as something that will take no longer than an hour. This is not an interoperability opportunity from our point of view. So we don't want to commit our time to it. As soon as we get enough users telling us that it's worth doing, then sure, we'll consider it even more. But there's a lot of challenges when you start trying to do Revit APIs and license agreements and all this sort of stuff. So it's not exactly a low-hanging fruit for us. So at this point in time, no commitments to that space.
Okay. Vincent has asked, what's Speckle's business model if it's free for us to use?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, community level, free to use. Speckle has been almost entirely free for 1.5 years. So haven't charged anyone anything to be on Speckle. So it's focused on building the knowledge and plugging the gap between the National Construction Code changes of 2016 and 2019. And that's been its primary agenda. So to try and support the market in getting across that space, and it continues to be a focused agenda for the platform and the project in general. So free, jump on, create projects, create some design, do all that sort of stuff. It's all the fun and sexy stuff of building simulation modeling and thermal modeling, that sort of stuff. That's the bit we're going to have to start charging for, because we pay for the servers where the calculations are run.
There was a question I saw. George has asked, what about discounts for small company users of only 1 to 2 people? So is that something that you're...
No, I mean, $199 a month. We think there's a hell of a lot of value there. You don't have to commit for the year. If you commit for the year, the fee goes down even further. But yeah, I mean, I think it's very, very cheap. You couldn't get this level of value anywhere else in the building simulation world. Yeah, we wouldn't entertain any price reductions based on this. It's a 30-day free access as well, so it's cheap. It's 30-day free access. It has a massive community level that is also free. So I think we've ticked as many boxes as we're able to tick there to be a financially sustainable business model.
Thank you. Yuli has asked, does the app also display SD values moisture diffusion?
So for the condensation side of things, so it has vapor resistance and resistivity values in the back end. So that is not something that we work through with suppliers. I've worked in the hydrothermal modeling space for the last 10 years, so I'm very much across what SD values and all the different ways to communicate moisture transfer in buildings. We just simply agree those. So for whether it's a phenolic foam or a glass wool or a cement sheet or whatever, they're just defaults in the back end. So they're reliable defaults and they're conservative defaults. So we're not trying to, where we haven't had any calls for them to be adjusted. But one thing I would say is that by October this year, we're looking to automate hydrothermal modeling on Speckle as well. So full simulation of hydrothermal modeling that goes away from the existing glazer method. Bit of detail there, but it is a method that is really not suitable for many of Australia's climates where you have vapor diffusion going inside and outside.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to have to leave it there because we need to wrap the meeting up. There's more comments that are coming through. So what we might do is any questions that have been unanswered, we can forward them to you for a...
Yeah, that's no problem. And yeah, look, thank you very much for your questions, guys. Really, really appreciate the sun's starting to get to me now. Yeah, anything that I can help you with, feel free to get in touch.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Darren.
No problem.
Okay, so I'll wrap up the meeting now. There's a QR code on the screen for you. Thank you very much to our presenters and thank you to everyone for joining us. It's been a really interesting meeting. The next meeting will be on the 3rd of August at 1 p.m. So keep an eye out for the registration email. And we will see you in August. Thank you very much.